They called him Evan, a quiet, clever handyman who lived in the smallest house on the edge of the cul-de-sac. No one remembered when he moved in exactly. Some said it was 5 years ago, others swore it was longer. What everyone agreed on was that Evan could fix anything. Leaky pipes, broken fences, malfunctioning sprinkler systems. He did it all, usually without charging more than a smile and a handshake. He was invisible in the way most useful people are. Always around, never intrusive. If he spoke, it was brief. If he laughed, it was polite. And yet, he knew everything. Every alarm code, every gate access point, every single resident's quirks and habits. He remembered birthdays, anniversaries, the names of dead pets. But no one ever thought to ask about him. That's how he liked it. The circle trusted Evan too much, especially when the housing market crashed and families started leaning on one another to survive. While others sold off assets and downsized, Evan somehow stayed afloat, renovating, restoring, repositioning homes for newer, wealthier tenants. And always, quietly. But one person noticed: Janice. Janice was head of the welcoming committee, the HOA treasurer, and the self-declared moral compass of Willow Heights. She wore her hair tight, her opinions tighter, and her lips even tighter than that. And she didn't like things she couldn't control. Evan was one of them. At first, it was small. She asked him to formally report his repairs, submit invoices, account for materials. Evan complied, selectively. Then, she requested background checks for contractors. He declined, politely. That's when the letters started. Unmarked envelopes slid under doors. Rumors circulated. Janice claimed she was just raising awareness, but everyone knew she was targeting him. She said Evan had lied on his application, that he wasn't who he claimed to be, that he had a record. Evan didn't fight back, didn't yell, didn't threaten. Instead, he smiled, the same smile he gave when fixing a fence or clearing a drain. But the next week, when Janice left town for a wellness retreat, her home was mysteriously flooded. Pipe burst, waterlogged, insurance denied the claim. She came back to find a for sale sign on her lawn. A week later, she was gone. The circle never spoke about it. Evan became more than a handyman after that. He was a fixture, a quiet king. Families came to him first, not the board. He fixed things before they broke. He attended every circle Sunday, always standing, never offering, just watching. Some say he found a ledger, old HOA documents, forgotten bylaws, secrets about the committee's finances that could ruin reputations. Others say he simply knew where the bodies were buried, literally. Years ago, before Willow Heights had gates, before the manicured hedges and designer mailboxes, the land belonged to a single estate. Rumor had it, one of the original developers went missing, swallowed by a legal battle, never heard from again. No one knew where the documents ended up. No one looked too hard. But Evan did. Then came the new couple, the Fitzgeralds, young, rich, entitled. They bought Janice's old house and came in swinging, questioning the committee, proposing changes, bringing in outside contractors. Evan tried to warn them. They didn't listen. The new fence they installed, torn down overnight. The camera system, glitched for days. Then one morning, the Fitzgeralds woke up to find their car keyed, their dog missing, and "Trust the Circle" spray-painted across their garage. They called the police, filed reports, complained to the HOA, and then they were gone. The listing online said relocated for business, but no one saw a moving truck, no goodbyes, just a silent disappearance, followed by a new family that never asked questions. That's how the circle worked now. Evan didn't run things officially. His name wasn't on any board. He had no title. But he had something stronger: loyalty. He had built favors into every home, patched secrets into every wall, and watched as the people who once ignored him handed him the keys to their kingdom. One repair at a time. But power does something strange to a man, especially one used to being invisible. One day, a boy, maybe 16, knocked on Evan's door. His name was Julian. He said he was looking for answers, that his father had lived in Willow Heights long ago and vanished. Evan pretended not to know the name, but something in his face gave him away. Julian started asking questions about the HOA, about the circle. He recorded Sunday meetings with a hidden mic. He snuck into storage units. He interviewed ex-residents, and what he found was a file, an old HOA folder, tucked away in a forgotten crawlspace. Inside, photos, financial reports, handwritten complaints, a single copy of a resignation letter from the original developer, unsigned, dated the same week he vanished. Julian posted everything online. It exploded. News stations, lawsuits, police inquiries. Suddenly, the circle wasn't just a private community, it was a crime scene. Residents were interrogated, bank accounts were frozen, HOA board members resigned, overnight. And Evan? Gone. His house, empty. Tools left behind. Coffee still warm, some say he ran, others believe he never existed. But months later, a single envelope arrived at Julian's apartment. No return address. Inside, a photo of Evan standing in front of a half-finished house, smiling, and a note. Some things aren't built to last, but secrets, they live in the walls. No one's heard from Evan since. But in a gated neighborhood halfway across the state, residents speak of a quiet man who fixed their sprinklers and never asked for payment. And each Sunday, without fail, he stands at the back of the group, watching. Julian didn't leave town after the scandal broke. He stayed. Even when reporters stopped calling, when lawsuits went quiet, when the neighborhood suddenly got very good at pretending nothing had happened, he stayed. He rented a one-bedroom condo just outside the gates of Willow Heights. From there, he watched. He recorded the same cars coming and going. He tracked the restoration of the HOA's website. He listened to the same phrases echo from residents in casual conversation. We're moving on. There's nothing more to say. It's all been taken care of. It hadn't. Late one evening, Julian followed a lead, a contractor who had briefly worked with the HOA 5 years earlier. The man claimed he was hired to renovate one of the homes on the far end of the circle. But when Julian asked for records, permits, any signed contracts, there were none. The man just shrugged and said he paid in cash. Quiet guy. Wore gloves even in summer? That's when it started to click. Evan wasn't just part of the circle, he was before it. Julian dug deeper. County archives, property records, foundation deeds. He searched through microfiche and scanned receipts, older than his own birth certificate. And there it was. E. Lockridge. Not a handyman, not a tenant, not a ghost, a founding investor. Evan Lockridge had helped fund the first development phase of Willow Heights. His name wasn't on any board, not officially, but it was buried in LLC filings, shell companies, and obscure easement rights that gave him quiet access to every home in the community. The handyman was the architect all along. That was the first fracture. Julian couldn't breathe when he read it. All this time, he thought he was unearthing someone who'd infiltrated the system, when in truth, Evan was the system. He didn't slip into a world that rejected him. He designed one that would never question him. And the real game hadn't ended when Evan vanished. It had just changed boards. Julian kept digging, kept connecting dots. But things around him started to shift. His mail went missing. His internet slowed at night. Once, he caught a woman watching him from the same corner every morning. Never moving, just present. And then came the envelope. It wasn't mailed. No postage. Just slid under his door, sealed with wax. Inside, a grainy photograph of Evan standing in front of a half-constructed cul-de-sac. Behind him, rows of unfinished houses. In black ink, 3 words were written on the back. Begin again. Soon. Julian froze. The image was dated last week, not a flashback, a warning. He drove 3 hours north to find the site. It was real. Foundations still fresh, street not yet paved. But the blueprint? Familiar. Almost identical to Willow Heights. Identical fencing, identical lot sizes, identical curvature of the road, a perfect circle, a second circle. The realization came slow but heavy. Evan hadn't vanished. He was replicating. What everyone assumed was a retreat was actually an expansion, and Julian, once again, was too late. That was the second fracture. The circle wasn't just a single place. It was a design, a model, a self-replicating ideology wrapped in community newsletters and HOA guidelines. It didn't need barbed wire or locks. It used trust, ritual, routine, control disguised as courtesy. And Evan? He'd found a formula that worked. Julian tried to go public. Again. But the internet had already moved on. His posts were shadow banned. Videos flagged for sensitive misinformation. Even friends who once championed his story now ghosted him. And every time he walked out of his building, he saw it. A van across the street with tinted windows. Different color, every day, same license plate. Then one night, he came home and found his apartment door cracked open. Nothing was stolen, nothing broken. Only one thing changed. All the framed photos on his wall had been turned to face backward. That night, he checked into a hotel under a different name. And in the morning, he left. No post, no announcement, just silence. No one has heard from Julian since, but in a brand new gated development just outside a quiet town in Oregon, a community newsletter was sent out last week. It featured smiling families, clean sidewalks, and a list of upcoming community rituals. One name at the bottom of the page, in small print, E. Lockridge, property advisor. Some say Evan is building something bigger. Others believe he's not working alone anymore. But one thing's certain. If a neighborhood seems too perfect, too polite, too in sync, you're not imagining it. The circle has already begun. Before you go, ask yourself one thing. What would you do if it happened to you? If this story kept you watching, there are more, many more. Subscribe to Scam Saga, and remember, some communities don't let you leave.